the biggest prayer was, Lord, I need to get a traditional publisher. And it's like going through the proverbial eye of the needle. For me, once that happened, I said, okay, well, at least, some people are going to read my book. All this while I've been blogging, I've never gone to the back end to look at the stats. And I think the first time I went and I saw that I had over 1 million hits, I went into proper panic mode. I was thinking, oh my goodness, 1 million people know about this book. Like, I cannot deal with that. I'm in a better space to be able to handle whatever success might be. And I think that comes from going through a period of
You're listening to the Driven Introvert Podcast, the place to be for dreamers, doers, and entrepreneurs who are ready to birth the dreams, callings, and ideas the Lord has placed in their hearts. Do you sense that God is calling you to step out and do something new, but you're held back by fear and uncertainty? Do you struggle with believing that you can do great things because of your quiet, reserved, and introverted nature? Welcome here. I'm Remy Roy, your host and founder of shepacked.com. I'm an author, an entrepreneur, a creative, and a committed trier. I'm here to help you get unstuck and make progress on your God idea. Let's go. Hi, friends. So the first time I wrote online publicly was in 2007. When I discovered Facebook for the first time. I knew I was a writer, but the experience of sharing my work was both very exciting and really, really scary for me. Then I moved on to blogging and I met some really amazing writers, so passionate about their writing and, sharing stories. One of the people I met during that time was Bimbi Lads, the blogger. You might know her as Abi Dare, the New York Times bestselling author of the book, The Girl with the Louding Voice. Abi is here with me in my virtual studio today. She's a sought-after speaker and teacher. She's really passionate about storytelling, and she actually recently delivered a storytelling masterclass at Harvard Business School. Very cool stuff. Abi and I talk about her book, The Girl with the Louding Voice. We talk about that time she shut down her blog people because she was overwhelmed by the attention it was receiving. We talk about what a lot of us do not get about being a best-selling author and somebody who is really celebrated in that way. We talk about the failed businesses Abi dabbled in. Very funny stuff. And Abi gives us a sneak peek into her new book, And So I Roar, which is a sequel to The Girl with the Louding Voice. And it's out now. If you're a creative with a desire to profit from your passion, to profit from the gifts, the talents, and the skills that you have, you cannot afford to miss this episode. Let's go. Hi, Abi. Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Oh, it is an honor to have you here. I feel like I have known you for such a long time because I've been aware of you and your work since about the mid to late 2000s. I believe that was when I started, really blogging. I mean, everyone knew, or at least everyone in our space knew Bimbi Lads, right? I read your blogs, your stories, the early books, publications, and all of that. And I'm really happy for you, happy for your success. And it's been so amazing to watch. So it's a special honor to have you here today.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
In the year 2020, that year that should not be named, I had fallen off the face of the internet for quite a while for different reasons. But I remember one day I went on Instagram because I was looking for something and I saw a video. And that video was of you on the Today Show. I was stunned. Like, it just blew my mind. I was like, this is amazing. Like, wow, she did it. Tell me how that felt. Was it ever a goal for you to go that far with your writing, to become a New York Times bestselling author? How did it feel when you accomplished that? When you got that call or when it was clear that, your book made the list? How did it feel when that happened?
Absolutely incredible. I think that, it was a prayer of mine. I remember having a conversation with God and saying, look, I love to write. I've always wanted to write. It'd be great to just do great things. But when you say great things, you don't think about what that might mean. You just think you want to do great things. For me, great things was more people reading my book because I loved, as you know, I love to write. I love to tell stories.
Yes,
I've always been that kind of person right from girlhood into adulthood. And so for me, I just really wanted more recognition for my work. That was the most important thing for me. But, I remember I was in the library when I got that call. I was trying to work on the second book. And I got a call and it was my editors. No. Yeah, I got the call saying I was going to be on Today's Show for my editors. And I remember just I couldn't scream because I was in the library. It was very quiet. So I was like, kind of thing.
I can
And then
imagine
I
that.
called my family. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to New
Oh
York.
my
And then I
God.
flew to New York, and then I flew back. And then the book debuted, and that was at midnight when my agent called me and said, I know it's late at night, but this has just happened. And I just was just screaming. The kids were asleep. They woke up
Oh
like, what's going
wow.
on? What's going on? So it's a feeling you would never forget. I'm so grateful and very
Yes.
humbled by everything. I think it's more of a humbling thing because you think this tiny me who wrote this book in non-standard English, to
Hmm.
see it being so loved and so appreciated.
Mm.
I always say this thing, but for the grace of God go I.
Mm.
It's all a lot of grace.
Yeah. So there wasn't any specific goals attached to your writing? Like you wanted more recognition for it, but what did that mean for you? Did you have
For
something
me, it
specific in
was,
mind?
yes, for me, it was loads and loads of people. I didn't quantify that. Loads of people
Mm.
reading my work.
Mm.
And I knew that for that to happen, it had to go through, potentially had to go through traditional publishing routes.
Yeah.
I self-published for a while, so I don't look down on
Mm-hmm.
self-publishing at all. But I know
Absolutely.
there's a lot of limitations to
Yeah.
self-publishing. So
Absolutely.
so for me, the biggest prayer was, Lord, I need to get a traditional publisher. And it's
Mm-hmm.
like going through the proverbial eye of the needle, really,
Mm.
really, really
It
difficult thing
is.
to do. So for me, once that happened, I said, okay, well, at least, some people are going to read my books now. I wouldn't
Yeah.
have to go banging on doors and say,
I
read my
know.
book, read my stories.
Oh.
So that for me was the definition of success.
Mm.
But we tend to limit ourselves. Now I've learned to just trust,
Mm.
put my work out there, and not think too hard
Mm.
about how far it will go.
Mm.
For me it's about putting my absolute best possible work within
Yeah.
what I can control,
Yeah.
and believing that it would develop its wings and its legs and go to where it's meant to go. I think that
Yeah.
should have been my mantra from the beginning: trusting God and just giving my absolute best shot, as opposed to panicking and thinking it's never going to
Yeah.
happen for me.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that definition of success. I think it's difficult to get to that place from the beginning because we have all
Hmm.
sorts of expectations for the
Yeah.
things that we want. And let's talk about success from a different perspective. I
Hmm.
listened to an interview that you did a couple years ago, and you talked about when you were a blogger. And you got to the
Hmm.
point where your blog became popular and people were
Hmm.
reaching out to you, and
Hmm.
that success shocked you and you shut
Yeah.
it down because you
Yeah.
were not prepared for that. And in my
Yeah.
mind, I'm like, that is so, I don't know. I don't understand that. That is so surprising for me. Tell me about your mental space at that time. Why were you afraid of that success and how did you deal with that? And what's different about success now?
I think that we're talking nearly 20 years ago, so I was much
Mm,
younger.
mm,
I've never been somebody that likes. I've never been an out there kind of person, even though my personality is I'm very happy, very extroverted. But when it comes to the public space and the internet,
mm,
even till today, I still struggle with
mm,
social media. I mean, I see people
mm,
put a lot of stuff out there. I've never been that kind of person. So seeing the kind of well, it almost felt like an overnight thing. All this while I'd been blogging, I'd never gone to the back end to look at the stats. And I think the first time I went and I saw that I had over 1 million hits, I went
mm.
into proper panic mode. I was thinking, oh my goodness, 1 million people
Oh my
know
God.
about this
Wow.
blog. Like, I cannot deal with that. I'm
Oh,
not,
wow.
and I was a student
I
in the UK. I'm
see.
like, I'm here to study. I need to focus. And it was because it was very personal. It was about my life. It was about my then fiance, who's now my husband. It was
Mm,
all about these things. And I felt like I'm putting other people's lives out there and
mm.
without permission. And
Yeah.
there's just something about knowing that, oh my goodness. And I think fiction is a safe space.
Mm,
I'm not saying I wouldn't write nonfiction, but that was very much me, my life. It made people laugh. I think that's what was endearing about it. But why was I putting my own family's life out there at
mm,
just without permission? So I could not deal with that. I couldn't deal with all of
mm,
that. So I shut it down. I think, there's fear of success that
mm,
some people deal with. Now, I think I'm much older. I write fiction. I can
mm,
control what I'm saying. We're going to interviews and all of that. So it's
mm,
slightly different. I think I'm in a better space
mm,
mentally, emotionally, spiritually, in every way to be able to
mm,
handle whatever success might be. And I think that
mm,
comes from going through a period of, like, I call it like a desert land, a
mm,
time of just trying to find my own feet and figuring out who I am, and
mm,
realizing that everything for me is now from a point of gratitude. So I'm not. I guess I never wanted to be big headed, and maybe that scared me. But now I think I know how to handle that. I
Mm,
don't know how to be big headed,
mm,
and I'm not afraid now of becoming big headed and becoming unrecognizable. I
mm,
despise that.
mm.
I
I
don't know if that
love
makes
that.
sense. It's just,
It
yeah.
does.
So
It
I think
actually
that's what scared
does.
me of being
Yeah.
unrecognized,
Yeah.
unrecognizable by family and friends.
Mm. I think it's a good place to be, and it's a good
Mm-hmm.
place to constantly be, because you don't want to get ahead of yourself. You don't want to get
Yeah.
ahead of God. You don't want to be
Yeah.
prideful, because that
Mm-hmm.
is the cardinal sin, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pride.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you do with
Mm-hmm.
that? And and like you said, the process of actually growing and going through difficult circumstances,
Mm-hmm.
being in situations where yes, you want to be successful, like you said, because you want people to see your work, but there will be times when you struggle and it doesn't
Mm-hmm.
happen, and all of
Mm-hmm.
those things build up to just make you
Mm-hmm.
wiser. It makes
Yeah.
you, yeah, just wiser with life, with the
Mm-hmm.
things of
Mm-hmm.
God, with even your creative
Mm-hmm.
process. You
Mm-hmm.
learn and you grow and you become better. So I
Yeah.
guess that evolution actually helps you manage the success better
Mm-hmm.
now
Mm-hmm.
than, because I was thinking about,
Absolutely.
like, how does what I mean, come on, we are all like creatives and we want to succeed, right? We want to succeed, we
Yeah.
want
But
more
I think
people
it
to
has
see
to come
our
at the
work.
right time, you know.
Yeah.
I've got very
Mm-hmm.
creative children, and I say to them, you know, it costs me nothing to put your gift and all of that out there on
Mm,
social media. But I
mm,
would never do that to them because they're not. This is a very personal thing to me. I'm not saying
yeah,
people that put their children out there and celebrate them, but I feel
absolutely.
like they're not ready
They're not ready for that.
emotionally, mentally to handle what
Mm,
comes with the demands, the expectations you give yourself. I've been through
mm,
trying to write my second book, and oh my goodness, it's a completely different thing coming
mm,
from a very successful debut that you didn't expect to be such a success, and then
mm,
trying to write a second book and all the pressure that comes with that,
mm,
and dealing with grief. I lost some family members as well. So dealing with
mm.
all of that
I'm
and
so
trying to
sorry about
write,
that.
thank you,
Yeah.
trying to write was hard. And I'm thinking, I just imagine if I'm not who I am and able to
Mm,
take each day as it
mm,
comes and show up for
mm,
myself and know when to
mm-hmm.
step back and say, I'm not ready for this right now. I need four,
Yeah.
that's why it took about
Yeah.
4 years in the
Mm-hmm.
of trying to get to the second book. So, it's important to allow yourself to grow
Mm.
up to the point where you are able to take the load
Yeah.
and the burden
Yeah.
of success because it
Mm-hmm.
can come with burdens,
Yeah.
as well as a lot of joy.
That is true. That's amazing. That's such an insightful thought. Let's talk about the book. Because Adoni, this book, I mean, I felt all the emotions reading this book. I laughed,
Mm,
I
mm.
cried. You are funny. You're a very funny writer. Because I mean, I think one line that I remember when she was talking to Tia Dada, when she said,
Mhm.
"Why did you lock your teeth inside iron gates?" Like, I was reading it by myself in my room and I just died laughing. I laughed, I cried, I
Yeah.
felt the longing, all of it, right?
Right.
And for our friends who are listening who are not familiar or hasn't read the book, Abi Dare's best-selling book is titled The Girl with the Louding Voice. So Abby,
Mm.
the choice to write this book in broken English, tell me about that. Like, how did you struggle with that? How did you
Not,
think
I
did
mean,
you
at
think how it will
first,
be perceived? Yeah.
no, yes and no. So,
Mhm.
for those that read my blog back then, I had this character called Jimo. I can't remember what I used to call him. I can't remember, but it was somebody that I knew, a real life person, that had a funny way of speaking. When I say funny, back then to me it was funny because I came from a reasonably privileged background, and so each time
Mhm.
I go to visit this family member that had this boy living with them, I used to laugh at the way he used to say rice instead of rice, he would say guys. And so I used to blog about that. And for some reason, that particular blog used to be some of back then when I would blog about this guy and the way he speaks, the kind of reaction I'll get from readers. It was so, and also even in my real life, when I talk to my friends, I tend to use non-broken English sometimes to express
Mhm.
myself. No, it's not
Yeah.
standard English, sorry. It's
Yeah.
just who I am. So my friends,
Mhm.
sometimes say, when Abby wants to be Raz, she can be very Raz, right? So So when I came to writing the girl with loud voice, trying to talk about very serious themes here, talking about
Mm.
real life issues plaguing young girls in rural Nigeria,
Yeah.
rural Africa, across the world actually, but
Yeah.
especially girls from rural areas because then many
Mm-hmm.
of these areas are underdeveloped, and education is not a forefront investment for the government
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
many of these areas. And so writing about a girl like that, it was important for me to divorce myself as a writer from my
Mm.
experiences. And the only way I could do that was obviously because I'm writing was through her voice, her writing voice. So it made sense to write in a way that would mimic some of the house girls that I knew growing up. And
Mm-hmm.
not just me. I remember having a conversation with my husband as well. He had a lot of housemates, and a lot of some of the inspiration that I had with writing go, a lot of words would come from conversing with him because he
Mm.
had so many stories, funny stories
Mm.
about his mates.
Yeah.
They went through a lot. I think they went through about 50. So he compared to us
Oh
that had
wow.
maybe about eight. His
Mm.
mother was churning mates out like was going out of fashion.
Mm.
So he had a lot of stories, both male
Mm.
and female.
Yeah.
House helps in this case. So it was important for me to make her as authentic as possible. And
Mm.
to do that, I knew that I didn't want her to speak pidgin English because even the president speaks pidgin English. It's
Mm.
universal way of communicating. And I had to figure out a way that I would write a book that would be something that I could absorb myself
Mm.
without it giving me a bit of a headache. So it came with from my own natural way of gisting,
Mm-hmm.
plus learning, bringing back all the stuff that I knew our mates used to say, some of the stuff my husband's mates used to say. My then 2-year-old daughter, she was about 2 or 3, who was coming into English language for the first time, even though she had never lived in Nigeria or was born in the UK, but she's coming into the language for the first time. And when you're coming into a language for the first time, you're kind of feeling the edges of the language and trying to
Mm-hmm.
absorb it, understand what it feels and tastes like. And so
Yeah.
she would say some absolutely hilarious things, and I would run after her and be like, "Oh my gosh, I need to use this." And so, all of
I
those
love
enriching
that.
experiences came together. But at the time, I was writing the book for as part of my master's, my thesis, my dissertation
Mm.
for my
Mm-hmm.
master's in creative writing at uni. So for me, it was about getting a distinction at first.
Mm.
But I'll be honest and say the reaction from my supervisor was what changed everything. I walked into
Mm.
his office and he took one look at me and said, "Abby, I don't say this often, but this is publishable material." And he had come from judging the Booker Prizes. So when he
Mm.
says something, I take it seriously. So when he said that, and he said, "Abby, do you think you can finish this?" I
Mm.
said, "I will try. I don't know if I
Mm.
can." It was just 3,000 words at the time. And they said, "Well, you need to sustain this voice to the end of the book. And if you can,
Mm.
you're onto a winner here." So I just said, "Look, I'm going to be typical sort of Bimbi lads here. Be funny, just let her be sassy, let her be whatever she is. But
Mm-hmm.
keep the themes anchored onto
Mm.
the page. Do not forget the reason why you're writing this book, which is to
Mm.
highlight the problem of child labor and all
Mm.
the attendant issues of child marriage and all the things that come with it. Or maybe the other way around, the issue of child marriage and
Mm-hmm.
all the attendant issues that come with it."
Yeah. Yeah. That's interesting. So obviously you decided to write it in broken English, and did you ever get anyone at all that read it and felt like it's a little difficult for me to understand, or to kind of follow the story?
Yeah, I got that a lot actually. I got that a lot from readers. But everyone said to me that something magical happens on page 3. There's a magical
Oh,
page
really?
3 where something happens and suddenly the
I need
brain
to
did a
check that.
fantastic. Yeah, I know.
Hmm.
But I just think it's the brain's ability. The brain struggles at first,
Adapt.
and then
Yeah.
if you persevere
Persist.
and just
Yeah.
get through the first 1, 2 pages, for some
Mm-hmm.
reason by the third page, and in fact, what people then say to me is by the time they get to the end of the book, they
Mm.
begin to think like Adune and speak like Adune, and they're like, "What the heck is happening here? These are not Nigerians. These are
Oh my
non-Nigerians."
god.
So,
Yes.
I had somebody read the book and she actually tried to send me an email in Adune's voice. And she's not
Are
Nigerian,
you
she's,
serious?
she's white American. So I just found it hilarious. So I think that the
Oh
brain has this
yeah.
ability to adapt
Mm.
to
That
these
is
things. And I
true.
think, we should experiment more, take more risks. I think,
Mm.
take a lot more creative risks. Sometimes it pays off.
Yeah, that is true. Even with writing, because one thing I've been trying to sort of think about is if I want to create something, I want to write a book or I want to do something creative, how can I figure out a different way to come at it? Even with like the podcast, I'm thinking, what is a different format? What is a different way that I can come at a story, a creative project? I think it does a lot to unlock a level of creativity that it will be hard at first, because you're not used to thinking like that or doing things like that. But and that is one thing I take away from this book is just trying to do something out of the box, and you absolutely nailed it with this book. I cannot wait for the next one.
Absolutely, and I'll say with the podcast, I'll say don't second guess yourself, and don't run it by people. Those are two things I would say, and this is advice I give.
Oh.
I didn't run. I think I didn't run my choice by anybody because I knew that, especially the family around me, as supportive as they are, there could be one or two that will go. I mean, giving an example, and my mother is a typical example. My mother is hugely supportive of my career. But I remember when I won the Bath Novel Award, which is what launched me into all this wonderful stuff. My mother said, "Okay, I'm about to book my tickets." Okay, so I've been shortlisted. So my mom sent me an email. She's like, "Okay, I'm about to book my ticket. I'm coming to support you. Send me the manuscript that is on the shortlist." So I sent it to my mom, and she said she called me. She said, "No. I said the one that isn't."
Are you kidding me?
The one that is. I said that's the one. She said, "It's not in English now." I said, "Exactly. That's the." She said, "With all your degrees, they need to know. So these are the things. These are the issues.
I feel you.
You have to, you people are going to say to you, you have all these degrees, you need to prove that you can speak very good English. It's quite demeaning and all of whatever it is. But the truth is, creativity cannot be stifled. It cannot be put in a box. You have to run with it. And not everybody is ever going to get your vision. So I tend not to share what I'm working on, especially at infancy, with anybody, because it allows me to be fully me. I'm not thinking about your opinions. Good opinions make me feel big-headed. Again, big-headedness for me is one of the quickest ways to fall, because I get to a point where I think, oh my gosh, if this person thinks it's so great, I'm on page 3 and I have no idea what to do next. Versus, this is not going to work, and I'm thinking this is not going to work. So getting the feedback from my supervisor was just all I needed. He said this could be publishable if you can finish it. There was no promises attached. He didn't overpraise me. It was just, you still need to work hard. And that was that was enough for me to carry on to get to the end. So
yeah, that's amazing. And I like that you keep mentioning that big-headedness, because I have a prayer that I've been praying, which is, from the scriptures, like, may I never think of myself more highly than I ought, because I think it will kill your creativity when you feel like you've arrived and you've got there. Absolutely. I remember I was watching one of your interviews, and I think the interviewer asked you because you talked about needing validation, because you have an MFA in creative writing, right?
Yeah.
And she talked about you talked about needing validation, and she asked you, do you feel validated now as a writer? Do you feel? And your answer was just perfect, because you talked about the fact that there will always be that question. Am I a good writer? Yeah. And how do I find out? Write the next book. Like, do the next thing. Keep working.
Absolutely. And I think maybe getting yourself out of that question of am I a good writer versus am I doing the work that I need to do to get the message that I need to get out, whatever that is, podcasting, music, whatever it is. There's a reason why you're doing it. Connecting your why to what you're doing is so important, because it takes away that need for anything apart from you just working to do the job. So living for purpose, right? A purposeful living takes away the need for validation and all of that. And,
I love that.
It's great to get your work recognized, because, of course, you will be stifled. You will get weary and tired if you're going at it for years and years and years and nobody recognizes it. But I also believe that it's very hard for you to be consistent at what you do and not one day get applause. I find it very difficult. But the question is, how long is a piece of string? How long is your consistency? And at what point will the string break under the pressure of expectation? Which is why you must do what you love. And when you do what you love, then the piece of string can be as long as it takes. Because you're doing what you love, it doesn't matter. One day would happen. There will be times when you pause and break and cry. Some people have listened to my story when I said I'm never going to write again. I'm going to be an entrepreneur and start a business, and how I failed at it. I've told that story a few times, because I wasn't doing what I loved, and I'm not a great business person. What I am is a storyteller, and what I am is a teacher. Those are the things that I do that I love to do. So when I do those things, then the business side of it just comes with a package, as opposed to me trying to reinvent myself into what I'm not.
Hi, friend. Are you enjoying the podcast? May I ask you a favor?
please take a moment to leave a review of the show wherever you listen to podcasts. Reviews are very important and help other people find the Driven Introvert podcast. I'd really appreciate if you could rate the show and also leave a written review. You can review on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. Thank you so much for your support. I really appreciate it. Now back to the podcast.
Yeah, gosh, I love that. I love that because I just had I had a podcast interview with a friend. She's Ayofe. She's a diction coach and entrepreneur and all that, and she talked about that, the fact that it is impossible for you to keep doing something consistently, something you're good at, something you're gifted to do, and not have it at least work at some point. That what
Mm-hmm.
happens most of the time is we give up too soon.
Or we're
And
doing what we don't love. We're doing what everybody else is
yes,
doing.
yes, because we're not in our zone of genius. So
Yeah.
like, how does that go anywhere? But if
Yeah.
we know, so if I use, myself as an example, I used to blog,
Mm-hmm.
I used to write, but I was
Mm-hmm.
never consistent. I was
Mm-hmm.
never consistent. And even though I know that I'm gifted to write,
Mm-hmm.
um, it was a struggle for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it took me a while to even get out of the feeling of disappointment in myself
Mm-hmm.
because I haven't been able to stay consistently doing that one thing. But also on the flip side of it, things have worked out in a way that it makes sense now.
Mm-hmm.
Not that validating the fact that I wasn't consistent, but I
Mm-hmm.
think what I was chasing wasn't where God wanted me,
Mm-hmm.
wasn't exactly where He wanted me. And I
Yeah.
feel like even when it comes to writing and all that, it will come, but I feel like I needed to go through some experiences. I needed
Mm-hmm.
to build some other aspects of life and all of that
Mm-hmm.
before getting to that point. So knowing, like you said, knowing what we're supposed to be doing, being in our zone of genius and
Mm-hmm.
consistently doing that would
Yeah.
definitely, lead somewhere.
Yeah.
I love that thought. Tell me about the business you did. I'm curious now. You said you wanted to be an entrepreneur.
So I decided to start selling shoes. Don't ask me why. I just figured out something. Everybody wears shoes. Like you never go out there and see people bare feet, right? Except
Yes.
for one or two religious reasons. Majority of people wear shoes. Everybody wears shoes. So I thought I'm going to start selling shoes. So I went online and I got this guide and I said to him to build me a website. So he did, and he was like, the website is ready. So I ordered shoes, and so the shoes came. A box of shoes everywhere in the house, and we lived in
Oh,
a tiny
wow.
flat at the time. Everywhere in the house, and so I had the job was to take photos of the shoes and send it to the guy to put onto the website. And so I opened all the shoes, and my husband was like, Abi, there's something really weird happening here. I said, what is that? All your shoes are size 4. I wear size 4. I have tiny feet. I wear UK size 4. So I had ordered only size 4 shoes. You can imagine 80, 90 pairs of shoes, only
Are you
size 4.
serious?
So he's like, how on earth are you going to do a business with this? So eventually I gave the shoes out. Then I tried to start selling toys. So I bought some toys, and I said I'll start this whole Amazon thing. But yeah, I had to. At the time, I had a young girl, a daughter. I mean, she's still here. My daughter, but she was a baby, kind of like 2, 3 years old at that time. And that's the time. That's the age where everybody has a party, like every Saturday. So what then happened was every single Saturday, I was like, what are we giving this person? Like, actually, there's a toy I could give them. So I gave all of that out. And that was the end of
Oh
that
my
business.
God.
So then I think I then said, okay, fine, I'm going to go into kitchen utensils. I ordered onion slices. I tried to sell them on eBay, but then I realized that I'm also terrible at math. So the price I put the onion slices, I think I'd sold 1 or 2. And so my husband said to me one day, he said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to post another one. I sold it. He said, how much are you selling it for? I told him, he said, how much did you buy it for? I told him, he said, how much was the postage? I told him, he said,
Yeah.
you're making a colossal loss.
Are you
So I
serious?
said, oh, I was making a huge, I was like minus 100%. And it didn't
my
occur to me.
God.
So I gave everything. I said to my mom when she came to visit, I said, if you ever have a Nigerian party, I have the right souvenirs. Give them onion slices. So that went, those 3 businesses I tried, I went down the drains. I said,
Oh
I
my
just crawled
God.
back into my writing, storytelling, and just, wiped my tears and said, okay, let me do what I love to do. Which is right.
Oh my God. I love the stories. I'm glad I asked you that because I think I find myself very similar to that.
Yeah.
Like I'm not great with math.
Mm.
And I'm not a good business person. So
Yeah.
I'll just stick with my creativity. Thank you for giving me the permission to do that. That's
That's fine.
amazing. All right. So let's talk a little bit more about success in general,
Mm.
right? Because of your success as an author now, I'm assuming that maybe some other things have come a tad bit easier. So right
Mm-hmm.
now you have like a coaching, you take on private coaching clients. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
getting clients, might be
Mm-hmm.
easier, and
Mm-hmm.
speaking on big stages, obviously,
Yeah.
because more people kind of know about you. When you
Mm-hmm.
zoom out on all of these experiences, is there any new insights that you've learned about success as a whole? Because like I said, we're all chasing some success one way or the other, right? We're all chasing
Mm-hmm.
success, whether in a traditional career or as a
Mm-hmm.
creative in business.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be successful, whatever our definition of success is. What have you learned about success now that a lot of things have happened for you?
Well, I think that, I talk about grace, but I also think that opportunity meets preparation
Mm,
is one thing I would say. I don't think I've met anybody that really is an overnight success, apart from
mm,
maybe somebody whose video went viral. They did a video, talk about it for 30 seconds, put up a video, went viral, and all of a sudden they became this global superstar.
mm, mm.
Minus that 1% of 1%.
Yeah.
Everybody you meet on the global stage of success has been
Mm,
putting in the work for
mm,
years.
mm.
You don't see that because we
Absolutely.
don't celebrate our failures enough. We
Mm-hmm,
go out there and you see Abi Dare, New York Times bestseller. But
mm-hmm,
behind Abi Dare, New York Times bestseller was over 1 million words that
mm,
was either rejected or forced into the self-publishing pile.
mm,
Um, so I think for me, it's respecting that. And so whenever I meet people, I respect that in them. I see drive, I see determination, grace, of course, but there's a lot
mm-hmm.
of that. But
Yeah.
also going back to what I say is many of the people I've met, barring a few, are really humble, wonderful people,
Mm,
successful people that want to help as well. So I have always had a perceived notion, perceived understanding of people up there that
mm.
they are, aloof, not helpful, not kind, and
Yeah.
but they found themselves and they're trying to navigate this as well. And so there comes the trying to understand that, not comparing yourself, because when you get to meet some of these people and realize they have real issues, they have
Mm,
real life is they're real, right?
mm-hmm.
So and then
Yeah.
having
Yeah.
conversations with them, you realize that why on earth was I ever looking up to you and thinking your life was perfect? So
Mm,
understanding that perfection does not exist.
mm-hmm.
People that are success is it's a byproduct of hard work, grace, determination, but it
Mm,
doesn't sort of absolve them from life's issues, and that keeps you very grounded as
mm.
well. I think I would say.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What do you think a lot of us get wrong about or don't know about being like a best-selling author? Because I'm thinking one of them will probably what you just mentioned. But what do you think? Because
Yeah.
a lot of writers have that goal. You want to be a
Yeah.
best-selling author. What do you think it's one thing we don't get or we get wrong about it?
The pressure that
Mm,
comes with the next and the next and the next,
mm, mm,
and wanting to. So when I was trying to write my second book, I didn't recognize myself in what I was writing. I was beginning
mm,
to write for the people, what I
mm,
thought the people would want, and it was contrived. It wasn't me. It
mm,
wasn't. It felt very false.
mm,
And I'm glad that I have a team of people that know me, that were
mm,
able to call me to say, look, Abby, I don't hear you in what you've
mm,
written. I don't hear
mm,
Abi Dare in this. Find Abi Dare.
mm,
Take the time you need. So trying to put yourself on a pedestal that nobody has put you on, and
mm,
thinking the whole world is looking up to me. I have to create another genius
mm,
character like Aduni that the whole world is going to fall in love with,
mm,
and forcing myself to create what did not come naturally to me.
mm,
That for me was hard.
mm,
And getting to the point, again, it involves a lot of recalibrating. Getting to the point where I then had to say to myself, it doesn't really matter, Abby, write what you love. Go and
mm,
write exactly, which is why I then wrote a sequel, write what you love, write what you know, write what you're comfortable with. And so writing the sequel was a comfortable place. But plus, I had a lot to still say about
mm.
the issue of girls
Yeah.
in growing up poverty. So I think for me, that was that. Yes, the unreasonable expectations that you set
Kind
for
of put on
yourself.
yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's just insane. And also being in positions where you are expected to know everything. So, I mean, I remember I was in Italy once and I was asked a very, very difficult political question. I was like, I don't know. It's things because people think you're not on. Or the other time I was
Yeah.
on TV, I was on Turkish TV, and they asked me about. So I dedicated the book to my mother,
Okay.
who is a professor, the first female professor of taxation in Nigeria, and she advises the president on tax affairs and stuff, and
That's
so she's
awesome.
when it comes to economic and taxation and all that, she's very there, very far away from me. I'm a creative. I tell stories. I try to make people laugh. So I get onto this TV and it's live TV, and I'm asked something about the economic situation and what I would advise the president or something. I was like, what? I don't know. Ask my mom. Like, so it's being comfortable enough to say, I don't know. I have no answers. That's not me. I'm a storyteller. And even the stuff I write about, I don't 100% know every single thing,
Everything about
right?
it.
There are things I make up. There are things I have to ask the experts, and they advise and guide me. So there's that as well, and feeling like, oh my gosh, this is going to go viral, and everybody's going to talk about me and how I
Yeah.
proved that interview. So stuff like that.
Oh,
Sometimes.
I love that I love that you shared that, because it's good to know these things ahead of time. Because I feel like sometimes if we're mentally prepared for things, you can handle it better when you get there. So if you know now that, okay, these are the expectations that people might have, you know how to like
Yeah,
handle it, and
yeah,
I think that's the best way to have handled it, instead of trying to say something that you don't know anything about, which would
yeah. I
be
mean, I've done that
clear
before
that,
when I said absolute rubbish,
are you
and I got up
serious?
and I said to my husband, I've just absolutely said nonsense on that
Oh,
interview. I just hope nobody finds out. But
that's
then
so
it's been
funny.
that. You learn,
Yeah, you
absolutely
learn.
rubbish.
You
And you could
learn.
see the interviewer's face going, huh? What did we ask you? What the heck are you saying? But look, I'm only human, so I make fun of
Yes.
myself.
I love that. I mean, that's a great disposition. I absolutely love it. Yeah. I hope
Yeah.
everyone listening can take something from this, because this is amazing. Thank you for being open and sharing that. Okay, so let's talk about you mentioned that you're an extrovert, but there
Kind
are
of.
other, did you say kind of?
Yeah, it's kind of.
Mm. Okay, so let me see. Do you like to spend time with a lot of people around you all the time?
Not all the time. That's why I said kind of. So
Okay.
I would very much retreat, even at home
Mm.
from family. I have many
Okay.
moments. I think many creatives are like that. I have many
Yeah.
moments where I just hide.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to be talked to. I don't want to be
Yeah.
seen. I do
Mm-hmm.
not want to be touched. Get away from me, the world. And there are moments I'm like, hey, what's going
Let's
on?
go.
So it depends on the day you get me.
Yeah.
But generally, I think when I compare myself to many authors are very, very reserved. They like their own
Yeah,
space.
introverted. Yeah.
Many of them don't like public speaking.
Mm-hmm.
They're used to that solitude. I love to
Yeah.
publicly speak. I love to
Mm.
go on podcasts, and I love to teach creative writing. So I'm out there.
Mm.
At
Yeah.
least when it comes from that of business side of
Perspective.
things.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm out there. But there are many times I do love my own space.
I love that. I love that. So,
Mm-hmm.
do you have a process for when you have to do press, readings, signings, speaking engagements? How do you prepare mentally for that?
It depends. I mean, I pray before
I love
before
that.
many, just Lord God my words, and let me speak
Yeah.
with wisdom, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it is that comes to my mind. But it depends on what it is. If I'm speaking on a major, like, global sort of debate around
Yeah.
women's rights and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
I need to study. So I study for things like that. I read.
Mm.
Many times they send me material ahead of time. I
Mm-hmm.
read that. We have pre recording sessions or whatever it is, and so
Mm-hmm.
many of these interviews and stuff are there. You're prepared. And if I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to speak on a stage, thankfully I write my speeches and research what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
There's been the odd time where I've researched and put in the wrong thing into my speech. I remember I did that once, and somebody asked me a question I had no idea about, and I just said, "Look, at the end of the day, I'm just a storyteller, so I'm here to tell
I
stories."
love it.
So I
That's
just
my
turned
cop
it into a
out.
joke. Absolutely. So
I
I don't
love it.
know. I just told you all these wonderful things about policies, but I have no idea what I've just said. So
I love
when I
it.
don't know, I laugh about it, but yes,
Yeah.
I prepare. I don't take anything. I prepare for everything. So even you
Mm.
sending me stuff, even though there is stuff that I kind of know offhand
Mm-hmm.
in terms of answers, I still went through it, read it, and said, okay, I can answer these things. I'm comfortable now.
Yeah.
So I don't take any opportunity for granted. I try to show up
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
every single opportunity I'm given. And many times some of them are even just book club meetings where I remember when I would go Loudon West, I had maybe 400 or so events to attend online, and many of them were
Oh,
back to
wow.
back to back to back. It was like
Oh my
practically
God.
every day for like 2 years or so. It was a lot.
Wow.
But I try to show up every
Mm.
single time.
Mm.
No charges on my time. But it's
Mm.
still, for me, it's people are turning up for you, so you turn up for them.
Yeah.
So I try to do what I can.
I love
Maybe
that.
not
I
to
feel
400. I'm thinking maybe more like 200 or so, but it was a lot
yeah.
at the time.
Yeah. I mean, this is good. This is good. I like that you're talking about these things because I mean, we know a lot of very successful authors, but we don't know what goes on. We don't know how much work you have to put into all that
As
you have
well.
to do. Yeah,
Exactly.
it sounds like a lot of work, and it's good to know, for people to know that this
And
is
I
what it
think,
takes.
yeah, and I think when people say, oh my gosh, you write full time, how amazing. The truth is, if I could have kept my 9 to 5 and done this, I would have, but it was
Really?
ridiculously difficult
Yes, I
to
can
do it
imagine
at the
that.
time. And so you have to get to a point where you realize this is
Mm,
my 9 to 5. And
mm,
it's just saying that, and it doesn't mean it's a life of luxury. People
mm.
feel that it's a life of luxury, but it's not.
Luxury.
It's
Hmm.
not a life of luxury. It's a lot of
Yeah.
work.
I mean, I can imagine
So,
that. But I love
yeah.
thanks for sharing that. Tell me about the Harvard. Um, it's not an interview. What did you do? Was it a storytelling masterclass?
It was a keynote speech,
Keynote
keynote
speech. Okay.
address to kick off the conference, student conference, and then a masterclass the next day. So I taught a workshop, a masterclass the next day.
How did you prepare for that? How did that go?
Oh, that was a whole lot of work.
Hmm.
That was, writing the speech, especially because you're thinking it's Harvard, like everybody there is smart.
Yeah.
And it was a conference, even though I called it a student conference, it wasn't a student conference. It was organized by the students, but it was an entrepreneurship conference. It was a
Mm,
social entrepreneur conference with people that have businesses that serve the public good. So, social,
mm.
that tend
Yes.
to social issues. So social entrepreneurs from all over the world were flying in for it, and I was given the key. I was kickstarting the
Mm,
conference with
mm.
my speech,
Yeah.
and I felt like, oh my goodness. So rewriting the speech, practicing the kitchen to my kids, and I'm like, standing in the kitchen, I'm like, my name is Abi Dare. My daughter will be like, nah, it's too loud, calm down. So all of that, or glazed look on their face. I'm like, am I boring you? And they're like, yeah, I lost you
Oh.
there. So making sure that everybody could understand my speech, and my brother came
Mm-hmm.
with me, love my family.
Oh, that's
He was like, look,
awesome.
I'm booking a ticket, I'm flying with you because I know you need this support. So he was there as well. And then the masterclass, like thankfully the masterclass was talking about creative writing, storytelling, which comes
Mm.
naturally to me. So that was easier.
Yes.
But I
Yeah.
was nervous. I'm always nervous
Mm-hmm.
before I start to speak, and then it gets
Yeah.
so all of those things are very natural.
Yes.
Just prepare and just take deep breaths and find a friendly face in the audience, talk to that friendly
Yeah.
face, all the wonderful stuff that I hear other
Yes.
great service speakers have said. I take that on board and I just go and do what I can.
I
So
love
that's what
it.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. That's awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I know we've talked about you not being an entrepreneur and you just being a storyteller and trying to stay in your lane. But generally, I think you probably answered this, but I'll still ask this question because I want to really hear your perspective in this direction. How do you view the business side of your creativity? So not just business as a whole, because whether we like it or not, it's still a business. There's a business side
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
creativity.
Mm-hmm.
I know that a lot of creatives, me included, I've seen it as a necessary evil because, come on, we're creative. We just want to do the art and focus on that.
Mm-hmm.
So, how do you say it? Is it like a necessary evil for you or an exciting part of the journey? Thinking about how you're going to make money from your creativity.
The truth is that pursuing your creativity and doing stuff with it over a prolonged period of time without earning without any money to gain, after a while becomes a chore. That's the truth,
Mm, yeah.
especially if you're 100% relying on it.
Yeah.
So what I always say to people is it's insane for you to rely 100% on your creativity without having a means of income, because until it starts to pay you, you really shouldn't 100% rely on it,
Mm-hmm.
because you
Yeah.
will begin to put money before creativity. And when you do that, you've
Mm.
killed your creativity. If
Makes
you get
sense.
to a point where it's able to pay you, then it becomes a kind of a delicious challenge, because
Yeah.
now you're creating, you're earning from
Mm.
it, you're enjoying the process.
Mm.
The truth is, for a lot of us creatives, it takes a long time to begin to
Mm.
earn anything meaningful, to
Yeah.
be able to, and sometimes for some people it never happens,
You have
and
it
for those
happens.
that it
Yeah.
never happens for, that's even okay. A lot of writers
Mm.
have kept their full-time jobs for various reasons.
Mm.
That's okay. In fact, a lot of writers do other things. I do other things. It's not just writing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's fine. But I
Mm-hmm.
think it's important. So for me, it's trying to understand, apart from the writing, because the business of writing is kind of different for me, because I
Mm.
have a whole an entity around that. So agents,
Yeah.
publishers, and all that. So they kind of, for me, it's a teaching, it's the coaching, it's charging what is right for my time. It's
Mm.
saying, Abby, you need to stop being too nice. So I'm the
Mm.
kind of person that I'll get an email from a writer who is really struggling with their work, and they write a really sweet email. Oh my gosh, Miss Dare, especially a young writer, I love your work, blah blah blah. I'm such a fan. I've written this, and I'm finding myself going into the manuscript and already making changes, because I'm like,
Oh.
oh, I really
Oh.
want to. And then a part of me thinking, Abby, time is money. There are other things you could.
Yes.
So it's really, it's
Oh
re-educating myself
yes. Mm.
on things like that, and saying, I understand that, but here is a booking form. If you want to have a conversation with me, you
Mm.
need to pay for that time. Many
Mm.
times I do free stuff. When I'm doing
Mm.
free charity stuff, turn up for those. But
Mm.
don't take away this time that I could be using to do other things.
Yeah.
Um, because imagine, multiply that one lovely sweet email by 1,000, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden you're
That's
not
it.
in any way
Mm-hmm.
productive. So
Yes.
it's important for you to understand what you know, what you're worth, charge
Mm.
what you're worth, but at the
Mm.
same time have empathy for people that cannot afford some of these things, and who have real talent and a genuine
Mm-hmm.
passion for. Remember, people are, you were once where they are. And so
Yes.
that's the thing I tell myself all the time. I was once where this person is, where I would
Mm.
have given anything to have a New York Times bestselling author spend 5 minutes of their time, which is why I
Mm.
do my Instagram lives. I come up
Mm.
on Instagram live, and some people ask me, why
Yes.
on earth are you doing that? You should be charging for that. I come on that and I say, ask me any question you have about your writing. So that's my free time. If you
Yeah.
want to learn from me, join my Instagram. I do that for free. But if you have a piece, 5,000 words, that you're writing, and you need somebody to look at it for you, you need to pay for that time, because I paid for that time when I was doing
Yeah.
chasing my own dreams. So it's
That
really
makes
that. So
sense.
I think my advice is, keep up what provides income for you while you're chasing your creativity, until the
Mm-hmm.
point where your creativity is able to pay for itself. Then you can
Yeah.
take a step back and expand
Yeah.
as well.
That makes sense. That makes sense. That's awesome. So I was
Mm-hmm.
gonna, you've probably answered a little bit of this, but I'm still gonna ask you because I want to kind of see what you might be able to provide for the listeners. So can you share 3 tips for creatives who want to profit from their passion? So they want to, like we've said, somehow be able to make some money from the
Mm-hmm.
thing that they're doing, whether they're writing, creating art, or whatever it is. Any quick tips for them?
First, number one is invest in yourself first.
Mm.
I think you can never be um, you can never perform at optimal value. You can never perform
Mm.
or give optimal value out if you don't invest in yourself. What I might mean by investing in yourself: attend training courses,
Mm.
read books on your
Yeah.
craft,
Yeah.
put in the time and the effort to
Mm.
do that. When you do that, you will get to a point where you become irresistible. And
Mm.
so when you name a price, people might question it, but the truth is they will know they're paying for value, because you have invested in yourself. So that
Okay.
leads to the next thing, which is charge what you're worth. So when I sit down with my some of my coaching clients, and now I'm trying to do a bit more to expand, because dealing one on one with people is too time consuming for me. I'm
Yeah.
trying to see what I can do to make it bigger. But the question is, when I come to the table and I'm speaking to a group of 10, 12 people, and I'm not paid for by company, they're paying me. I need to remember that at this, I've been grinding this thing since for 20 years.
Mm.
So the Abi Dare I'm meeting today is an Abi Dare that 20 years ago was attending courses. I remember then I would attend a storytelling course at whatever it is, pay £200, pay £100, pay this person, pay that person. I've invested in myself. And so
Mm.
I'm charging what I'm worth. So when you
Mm.
turn up to my workshops, I'm hoping to give you back all of what I've learned. So that's
Yeah.
number two. As a creative, it's important to do. And then number three is the same thing I've always said. Make sure it's your passion, because you would not always make money
Mm.
from this. There are gonna be dry moments. There are gonna be quiet moments. In those quiet moments, let your passion keep you going. And passion plus consistency would always equals to profit eventually. I was just speaking to my brother he's now got his own YouTube channel. He's fantastic at he has a documentary voice. I said to him, you sound like National Geographic,
I
channel
love
or something. He
it.
does. But it took him, yeah, I mean, I was always saying to him, go do this. And now he's doing it and he's getting followers and he's excited about it. And I said to him, I said, look, eventually you're going to get to a point where you're going to hit that, sweet, whatever that sweet spot is, and you're earning from it.
Mm-hmm.
And you're going to look back and remember how far you've come. But the
Mm.
truth is, if you don't enjoy it, you're going to give up somewhere.
Mm.
And
Mm.
the final thing, I know you said three, but the final thing is don't give up. So,
Mm.
going back to what you said you had a passion for writing and you stopped, and life would always get in the way.
Mm.
So when people ask me, how were you able to keep writing? Two young children. At the time when I was doing my master's degree, I had a full time, very demanding job. My husband
Mm.
was not in town. I'm
Mm.
married to a very Nigerian man. I live in the United Kingdom where there's no help, there are no drivers, there's
Yeah,
nobody.
you're by
And
yourself.
so I was trying to write The Girl with the Louding Voice. And that was my most productive time because I
Mm.
basically stripped myself of everything called pleasure to finish
Mm.
that book because I
Yeah.
had a goal
Mm.
in front of me. I had a vision in front of me, and I felt there was such an urgency in my spirit. And
Mm.
I approach every project with that kind of urgency. Well, I try to,
Yeah. Mm.
because if I had not finished the book at the time I finished it, I would have missed the deadline of the Bath Novel Award, and you would
Oh,
not have heard about Abi Dare today. And so,
would have
opportunity
changed
meets
everything.
preparation. You never know what is round the corner that is
Mm.
saying, Remy, what have you got?
Mm.
So, what have you got is the years that you were consistent, the years you were working hard behind the scenes, crying, slaving away. That
Mm.
what have you got moment is what could change everything for you. So you don't want to arrive at that moment and think, oh my goodness, I don't have anything, or I don't have enough, or I'm
Mm.
not ready.
Mm. Mm.
And that's it.
That's powerful. That is absolutely powerful. Thank you for sharing that. It does speak to me directly because, like I said, I've been there. So, yeah, this is helpful. And I hope our friends listening really take this to heart because, especially in times like this, a lot of people are
Mm,
wanting to depend on what can I do?
mhm,
What are my gifts? What are my passions? What
mhm,
can I pursue outside of, the traditional thing that can really help me support my family, help me do this,
mhm,
help me do that, live the kind of life that I want to live. And
mhm,
it is hard, and I'm glad that you've been very clear and open about
mhm.
that. It is hard, but it is doable. So I hope these tips are definitely going to help anyone listening if they take it to heart. So thank you for sharing that. Will The Girl with the Louding Voice be turned into a movie? Do you want that?
We shall wait and see. It'll be amazing. It'll be really amazing to see it come to the screen.
Mm-hmm.
But I would
Yeah,
watch that. But we'll have to wait and
definitely.
see what comes out of that.
Awesome, awesome. So can you give us a tidbit about the next book?
So it starts a week after Aduni leaves Big Madam's house. She's at Tia's house, her friend that she met, and very excited to start her school, which she won
Hmm.
hard-won place, hard-won scholarship at Ocean Academy. It's the night
Yeah.
before, and there's a knocking at the gate, and all of a sudden Aduni has to be dragged back to her village to face charges for a murder that she did not commit, or did she? We don't know. And so we have 24 hours of intense kind of thriller like. Parts of it parts of it are slowed down, but where
Mm,
Aduni has to fight for herself, but not just for herself, but the women, the girls in her village. But then there's also Tia, who needs to make a choice whether to follow, to discover the secret her dying mother has been hiding from her for
mm,
20 years, or to go with Aduni. So she's sort of stuck in between the two, and she has to make her decision very quickly. So it's really that, the book features a a witty book of wisdom. So Aduna writes a book within a book. There is also a talk show in the middle of a forest.
oh my
Themes
god.
around climate change, themes around friendship, themes around using your voice, themes around empowerment. It's a beautiful book, both heartbreaking and joyful.
Oh,
And I hope the readers are going to love it as much as I loved writing it.
Oh my God, I know they will. I loved The Girl with the Loud Voice. I cannot wait to read the next one. What's the
Thank
title? And
you.
So I Roar, right?
Answer her because I didn't literally be saying. She goes, my louding voice is not for you, so I'm gonna roll.
Oh my God. I love it. I cannot wait. I cannot wait. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so much, Abby.
Thank you
This
for
has been
having me.
amazing. Let's talk about what you do and how people can work with you. So tell us about your coaching business and what you help, how you help authors and writers. And yeah, let's share about that.
One on one, I do coaching. With that, I'm more selective, and we work on your manuscripts, especially people that feel like I have that gift, I have that talent, but I don't know if this is good enough. I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. So I go in like an editor, but also a coach. So I am the one that would say, what is your next scene going to look like? What's your next chapter looking like? And then when you send it to me, I go through it, edit, light head edits, but substantial edits. And just we then have a call on Zoom or whatever it is, and we go through it, and I try to tease out where you're trying to get to. So it's a
Mm,
proper end to end working relationship. It's
that's
fun. I've
good.
been told it's fun. You know, a lot of my
Yeah.
clients laugh a lot because I'm harsh but friendly. But the truth is, you would
Yeah.
never be the same writer if you work with me ever.
I love
That
that.
is one thing I guarantee you. You can't work with me and come out being the same writer as you started. And then
I
I
love
also
it.
do a lot of creative writing courses. I'm going to do a little more master classes. And I'm looking to do a wider coaching program where I can get 20, 30 people together and work for
Mm,
6 months because I feel like
it's
that's
cool.
a better, I think I give more of myself that way to more
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
than to do one on one because that just takes a long time. Because I'm
A long
working with somebody
time.
for 6, 7, 8 months
Yes.
because they want to get to the end of their book. And I've
Yeah.
had some successes with some of my clients who've had gone on to
That's
sign book deals.
awesome.
So it's
Yeah.
amazing.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. So I'm gonna leave the links to your website,
Yeah.
and yeah, and how people can learn more about your offerings and all that you do. Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much for joining us,
Thank you for
Abby.
having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoy this conversation, please take a moment to follow or subscribe to the podcast. I'd also love your feedback on this episode. You can scroll down on your app and click write a review. I'd love to read your takeaways from this conversation. As always, don't forget to take courage, trust God, and go pursue your big ideas. See you next time. The Driven Introvert is produced by shepack.com and Remy Roy, with support from Candice Zakaria and Aishat Olarewaju. Want to ask a question or share a comment on a future episode? Click on the link in the show notes to record your question in a voicemail.